So in this section, we've got our waste collected already, and we're going to go to the transfer station and see what happens there. So we've got our primary collection vehicles coming off the street. They're all full of waste collected from the curb. And transfer station is where all that material is going to get deposited and consolidated before going out on secondary collection vehicles to various waste disposal sites. So in the picture here, you can kind of see what it might look like in a transfer station. This area where the trucks are dumping all the material we call the tipping floor because they're tipping it. In this example, it's going into a recessed pit. They might be a flat floor. There's many other arrangements based on the types of trucks going into the transfer station and the types of trucks leaving the transfer station. But you can click on this video and kind of see what the operations in a transfer station look like if you haven't seen what that's like before. So transfer station's main purpose, consolidating waste from multiple collection vehicles into larger high volume transfer vehicles, or secondary collection vehicles, I'll call them. And that goes back to our cost benefit curve. You don't want to have all your little trucks carrying a little bit of waste going long distances. It makes more sense to put them onto fewer larger trucks somewhere in the middle. That's what we're doing in our transfer stations. This definition just says waste, but we know from looking at our previous videos in this chapter, there's a few streams of waste that we're picking up. We've got maybe 1 or 2 streams of recycling, our mixed waste, and our organic waste. So a transfer station is going to have to be set up to handle either all of those, or there might be different transfer stations for different materials. But all those decisions echo throughout the collection, transfer, and transport system. How many streams you're collecting, which trucks are collecting which things at which times, and how those get dropped off at the transfer stations. So that's something that all has to be integrated. And in that video, or sorry, the clip of the video 2 slides ago, you saw one style of transfer station, but there's all sorts of ways they could be configured based on, like I said, the trucks coming in and the trucks coming out. They could be loading trucks from the top. They could be pre-compacting the waste they put before they put it on the trucks. They could be compacting the waste into the trucks. They could be putting them on rail cars instead of trucks. So there's all sorts of different designs you might use based on how your system is set up. So here's just some examples of the collection vehicles that might be used on the other side. On the left side is a stationary compaction trailer. So if you look at this trailer, it looks like pretty beefy. It's got a lot of wheels on it, so you know it's pretty heavy. This type of trailer you can actually compact waste into. So at the transfer station, they'll fill it and compact it and fill it and compact it and get it really, really dense in that vehicle. As a result of doing that, it has to be built strong enough to withstand those forces. An alternative one would be a top-loaded trailer, which is on the top right. So this waste would have to be compacted before it got put into the trailer. But as a result, this trailer can be made of lightweight aluminum. It's going to be a lot less mileage to have that trailer moving down the road than the stationary trailer, but the transfer station is going to be set up differently. Or on the bottom, you can see rail cars going into a big incinerator. This is in Marseille, France. So some places where they've got really big regional systems, it makes sense to have freight trains coming in instead of trucks. Again, it's all a matter of scale and that cost benefit curve, what's going to be the best solution for a given system. So just looking at how transfer stations work in the region of Waterloo. So in the map here, I've got Waterloo highlighted, and I've got a star on Waterloo landfill, which is the currently operational landfill, and then Cambridge transfer station. And there used to be an operational landfill at that transfer station. Now the landfill's closed, but they still operate the transfer station. So around the area of Waterloo, those trucks, it would be simple for them just to go straight to the landfill. So they won't actually have to use a transfer station. They'll go straight there. If you walk out to Waterloo and look at the landfill, you'll see some of those same curbside vehicles out on the landfill dumping waste. Whereas the ones from Cambridge, it makes more sense for them to bring their material to the Cambridge transfer station, put them on a truck, send them down the highway, and then bring those to Waterloo. So this whole region is kind of covered by this optimization problem. What's the best place for me to go once I've finished my route to burn the least total kilometers of mileage? And to look a little bit bigger at Toronto, So all these little yellow dots on the map are landfills that used to exist in Toronto. So Toronto wasn't always this big, right? It grew bigger and bigger over time. So they kind of always had landfills on the outskirts. They often used landfills to fill in wetlands to build on. Not a great idea, but that's what they used to do back then. And the size of these circles indicates the size of the landfill. So you can see there's dozens of landfills all over Toronto. Obviously, they can't have a functioning city full of landfills. So if we look at the map of the transfer station network in Toronto these days, we've kind of replaced a network of landfills everywhere with a network of transfer stations of everywhere. So we still have little places that we send our waste to, but instead of keeping it there, we send it out of the city. So the city's kind of evolved over time by using transfer stations to consolidate the waste rather than the landfills itself, where the waste is consolidated and stored. So when you're citing transfer stations, obviously we have our technical consideration. When you look at these two examples, they're obviously trying to be kind of in the middle of a certain waste shed. They want to be close to the waste coming off the curb. They also want to be close to highways so they can send the trucks off and away to the disposal sites. But there's other considerations as well. So they need a certain footprint to be able to have all the trucks that will come in queue and the size for the tip floor based on how much waste is coming in each day and each hour. And they want to be able to follow all the regulations they have to. So specifically in terms of like noise and odor and traffic, there's a whole bunch of things you need to worry about. In addition to this, there are a lot of social and political considerations around transfer stations. So people generally don't want to have transfer stations in their neighborhood. They don't want to have garbage piling up in their neighborhood, but they also don't want to have the infrastructure that's going to prevent that in their neighborhood. So people don't like that there's going to be trucks that are making noise. They don't like that there's going to be odor from the waste. They don't like that there's going to be maybe more trucks on the roads at the intersections, slowing down traffic. So with transfer stations, because they're right in the city, it's maybe the biggest waste infrastructure people will see on their day-to-day. They can kind of flare up as issues of public contention. So public consultation is really important around transfer stations or anything that's right in the city or close to the city, but that often happens around transfer stations. And going back to some of our earlier conversations, talking about the idea of environmental racism, typically transfer stations have been cited in neighborhoods that have less political power to oppose having them there. And this has been recognized, and it's something that people who are doing citing actively are trying not to do now. They don't want to be pushing our problems onto neighborhoods that are less able to push back against them, and they don't want to have those neighborhoods be worse for it either. So if a neighborhood is trying to revitalize and someone puts a transfer station in, it may negatively affect that. So this is something that comes up with transfer stations just because they're right in our cities, but it also comes up with things along all the waste facilities that we'll look at. And then our next piece of the journey, we've been to our transfer station, we've dropped off our waste, we've consolidated it and sent it off on the trucks, is transport to wherever it's going to go. And I'll get you to watch just at the end of this section, this great video about this garbage barge called the Mobro 4000. It's kind of an extreme example of waste transport, but it gets at a lot of really good points. So I'll let you watch through that and then I'll rejoin you in a few minutes.